Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. This is your host, Amina Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to another episode of NextGen. NextGen is a platform that seeks to amplify the voices of young people, particularly young people who aren't given a platform by mainstream media. Young minorities, young people of color, young immigrants, young Muslims, these type of young people who are making some changes in our world. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and soon on Apple TV as well. Now, today our discussion is about a man who has been in prison for 20 years. That's 2 decades for a crime that he hasn't committed. In today's discussion, we'll be going into the realities of racial injustice in this country and the systematic issues that come along with it. And in order to discuss that, we have with us a young community organizer and activist Wasiq Javed, on stage known as Wise IQ. He's a spoken word artist, community organizer who's passionate about increasing Muslim involvement in the public scene and civic engagement. He has previously organized protest campaigns and educational events across numerous social issues. Wasik is a former member of the Mayor's Commission Against Gun Violence and senator at the Student Government Association at his college. Currently, Wasik is the lead for Justice for Imam Jamil campaign with other youth organizers and youth activists across the country. Thank you so much, Wasik, first of all, for being here, and thank you for the work that you do. Absolutely phenomenal, not just for your own community, but for communities outside of that as well. It's amazing work that you do.
No, definitely. No, thank you for inviting me here, and it's an honor to be with Muslim Network TV and to showcase the work that we're doing for Imam Jamil and how you guys can help.
Now, Wasik, a lot of people, especially many of our viewers, may not be familiar with the case of Imam Jamil Al Amin. They might not have heard of the name, especially young people. He's been imprisoned for 2 decades, right? So tell us more about him and the story and the case.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So for those who are unaware, Imam Jamil Al Amin, formerly known as H. Rat Brown, is a Black Muslim revolutionary, a civil rights icon, a human rights activist in particular, who has been wrongfully imprisoned, long forgotten in the history books. And our campaign, Students for Imam Jamil, our objective is to help demand his freedom. Imam Jamil Al Amin, as I mentioned, he was H. Rat Brown at the time. He was the 5th Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee chair. So SNCC, the Student Armed Movement of the Civil Rights Movement, was the organization that helped demand for the civil rights of African Americans at that time. He was also the Minister of Justice for the Black Panther Party. And so in his work in his youth days, by the age of 21, H. Rat Brown met with President Lyndon B. Johnson, and he protested outside the White House, and he demanded that we need civil rights for African Americans in this country, and for the rights and honor of them to be achieved. And so as H. Rat Brown goes on, he becomes so influential in his time as chairman that he begins to give fiery speeches all across the nation, and he was so influential, specifically in his ability to galvanize people towards action, and being able to uplift them and recognize their struggle for social justice and their revolution can only be done in what he called the Black Power movement, right? And so the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was preceded by Congressman John Lewis, people that we know today, who just passed away only just 1-2 months ago. He took this movement and recognized that in order to truly achieve our freedom, we must do so in other ways: cultural, political, and social. And so H. Rat Brown, he begins to have this national influence, and there's one incident in which he is imprisoned for giving a rally speech in Cambridge, Maryland. And the FBI at this time, they're surveilling him for all his work that he's doing, a program called COINTELPRO, a counter surveillance program by the FBI, in which they target and disrupt quote unquote Black messiahs, and to neutralize them and disrupt them and to execute them literally. so that way the establishment is not threatened, the status quo can remain, and those in power, in particular, white upper class, can remain where they are. And so he gives this rally speech, and the FBI, they falsely charge him for inciting a riot. And because of this, he became so influential. Congress wrote a law after his name, H. Rod Brown, which made it illegal to cross state lines in order to incite a riot. And so Imam Jamil, he converts, H. Rod Brown, he converts to Islam. He returns back to Atlanta, Georgia, as Imam Jamil Al Amin after he makes the Hajj pilgrimage and studies Islam. And there he establishes a community mosque in the West End neighborhood of Atlanta, notorious for its gang violence and drugs. And there he established several social programs while unifying the diverse Muslim community in America nationally. And while he's doing this, he's rising in influence, and not only as a Black leader, but as a Muslim leader in all of the grassroots organizations that exist. And because of that, he becomes later targeted up until his this time for about 2 decades now, where then leads to his case. And so in sum, H. Rod Brown, this Black revolutionary, then converts to Islam, and nothing really changes. He just becomes a revolutionary who understands the Islamic principles of revolution and the reorganization of society based upon Islamic principles of justice and morality and ethics. And so Imam Jamil Al Amin is this young revolutionary human rights activist, the likes of the next Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, who has been erased from society today.
Yeah. And I think, the whole time when we were speaking about him, Malcolm X kept popping up into my mind when you talked about the FBI. And I think that those who study Malcolm and see his life, we see that same exact thing. But the reality is, Imam Jamil Al Amin is still in prison, right? And he has been in prison for 20 years. Why is it that now people are starting to speak up? Why is it now there's an outcry and an outroar that is being heard from the public, mainly young people like yourself?
No, that's a very good point. I think when we look into this case in particular, there is a reason why he has been in prison for this long, and there is a reason, an intentional reason, why he is in prison and erased from society, and why us as the next generation have a responsibility. The difference between Malcolm X and Imam Jamil is that this same program, as I was mentioning, COINTELPRO, they actually made a mistake when they executed Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Fred Hampton and the many others, because their legacy was portrayed positively. And so the difference was that the state had recognized that we have to find another way to tarnish their legacy, to erase their legacy, to make them look bad. And so framing them and intentionally putting them in prison, and bringing them from state prison into federal prison. In the case of Imam Jamil, he's currently held in federal prison, though he was never convicted of a federal crime. And so when you portray him as a murderer, then the masses of people now have doubt in their mind, they have skepticism in their mind, and Imam Jamil then becomes someone that is not the same revolutionary who he was authentically. And so now where we are today, us as the next generation, when we're looking at modern day society and the calls for Black Lives Matter and the calls for abolition and defunding the police, we also have to recognize that Imam Jamil himself was calling for these very same things from an Islamic point of view, and the reorganization of society and the alternative to social revolution. And so it's our responsibility to recognize that, hey, the state had an intentional job of never letting his legacy pass on to the next generation. And so us reviving his legacy is that call to recognize that our liberation in today's day and age can only continue on the work of our elders and the work of our giants who stand on our shoulders.
Yeah, it is the guidance of the elder generation as well as the passion combined with the younger generation that actually causes change in our world today.
Definitely.
But Wasik, right, with the case of Imam Jamil Al Amin, what does this tell us about racial injustice in our country? With the Black Lives Matter movement, you mentioned that, we are seeing people standing up, raising their voices, but how does this connect back to this case?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. Imam Jamil, I would say, is a exemplification, one of the greatest exemplifications of injustice, of racial injustice, for the government to particularly target a Black Muslim revolutionary. Not an average layman, not your average person who's on the street who's protesting, but an intellectual, a leader, a unifier, an organizer, an activist. All these titles of who Imam Jamil was. He is someone that, through God-given gifts, was doing the work that would be a total, if he were to continue, and if he were to still be out in the streets with us, the likes of history as we know it today, and the likes of what we conceive of the criminal justice system, and what we conceive of minority communities and underserved areas, and what we conceive of all these oppressive systems that exist, from education to healthcare and so on and so on. Imam Jamil would have spoken out against these, would have organized against these, would have changed radically what we formulate of these systems, because of his outlook, because of his mission, and because of how he was able to organize masses of people behind this mission. And so he's not just a one-man team; he is all humanity team. And his ability to change the civil rights movement into the human rights movement, and then call for the liberation of all oppressed people globally, such as the Palestinians, such as the Bosnians who were going through a genocide, was that powerful. And so, to your question, Imam Jamil, Imam Jamil is this person that because of his revolutionary character, he is targeted, he is falsely imprisoned, and is there for a reason.
Yeah, and because he was so powerful, they deemed him as a threat and put him in these false trials. But Wasik, I want to bring it back to you, right? Even after he was imprisoned, he seems to have inspired so many people, including yourself, from the way that you talk about him, this man who's a revolutionary. What led you to kind of raise your voice and start speaking up as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for me personally, when I first heard of Imam Jamil, the first question I thought in my mind was, why haven't I learned about this man before? Why haven't I read about him in history? For me, when we follow the example of people like Malcolm X, as we were mentioning, the likes of, people who are can take Islam and convey it to the masses in a way which is articulate, in a way which is empathetic, in a way which impacts the heart. People like Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and so many trailblazers in our history. That is the work that we have a responsibility for in the next generation, as we're going up in our society today. How are we going to represent Islam? How are we going to achieve dawah and the mission and the call of one God, to then convey justice, to convey a revolution, to convey and uplift all oppressed and liberated people, because that is, at the end of the day, the core of our religion and the core of what all these trailblazers understood. And they were able to do that in such a level of and magnitude, which impacted so many people. And so for me personally, why I'm here and why I have my heart and mind behind this cause and the freedom of Imam Jamil is to continue his work, to take that torch and use that for our generation and the society all around us.
Hopefully, we can continue to do that and inspire others to get involved. Right after our short break, we'll continue speaking on Imam Jamil Al Amin and the work that's being done to gain justice and freedom for him. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and soon on Apple TV as well. We'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Beaker from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah, let's explore.
Assalamualaikum!
I love Adam's World because it makes me learn in a fun way. That Adam has a green face and orange hair. I like this song. I like how Adam sings. I like Adam's World because it makes me happy. What? No. 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 And here's Adam and here's Anissa. Adam is and his sister. Adam is a boy and he is very smart.
Download the new Adam's World app at adamsworldapp.com and let's help tomorrow's Muslims today.
Welcome back to NextGen. I'm here with Wasiq Javed, a young activist and community organizer. And Wasiq, you told us about the story of Imam Jamil Al Amin, this revolutionary, but I want to hear about the work that you guys are doing in order to gain freedom for him. Tell us about that.
For sure. So the work that we're doing is under the Students for Imam Jamil campaign. We launched a week prior to the election day in Fulton County District Attorney. Which was on Tuesday, August 11th. Now, to give some context and some understanding here, is that for the first time in 18 years, the same district attorney who had prosecuted Imam Jamil in 2002, that seat has been unopposed. And so for the first time in 18 years, there was someone who challenged the current DA, District Attorney Paul Howard, and that was Fani Willis. And so we understood that this time in history is so critical for Imam Jamil's freedom, because if this new district attorney now commits to reopening the case and looking at the clear evidence and confessions of the crime, which we didn't even mention, that there's the person who committed the actual murder, Otis Jackson. He has publicly came out on video saying that I'm the one who committed the crime and Imam Jamil is free. Yet nonetheless, for 18 years, Imam Jamil has been in prison and wrongfully in prison. And so in this 1 week campaign, we targeted both candidates to reopen the case. And so we organized, phone calls and letter campaigns and emails. And alhamdulillah, through our efforts, we led successful. And the day before election day, Fani Willis came out with a quote saying that, she is running for justice and she's not looking to just convict people. And if there has been a wrongful imprisonment and a wrongful conviction, and I look at the evidence and I believe it's legitimate, which it definitely is, then I will reopen the case. And so Fani Willis had just won the election on Tuesday, August 11th. She'll be inaugurated this coming January. And, this 1 week campaign proved successful. And so now we want to continue this fight and continue to raise awareness and build local and national, pressure for Imam Jamil. And so we're relaunching our Students for Imam Jamil campaign tonight in just a few hours with a new call to mobilize thousands of students nationwide to present in their classrooms about the campaign, to leading up in culmination to the national rally in Atlanta, Georgia on October 4th, Imam Jamil's birthday, with the call being to make this the last birthday Imam Jamil spends wrongfully in prison. And so if you would like to help, I urge you all to follow @_free Imam Jamil in the link tree, which is the main action item in the one all be all place where you can find all the information. You'll find the 3 action items that anyone can complete. The first one being the urgent call for Imam Jamil's new legal defense team, a fundraiser campaign in which you can donate. The second being the request to transfer Imam Jamil out of federal custody back to state prison so he can be closer to his family and his attorneys. And the third action item being for Paul Howard to reopen the case, because he is in office until December. And so if he commits to reopening the case and Fani Willis continues with it through next January, then chances are that the judge who has the ultimate decision to grant Imam Jamil innocence will actually happen. So I urge you all to follow @_free Imam Jamil. Catch our relaunch video tonight, which is an overview of Imam Jamil's life. And if you are a student and young activist like me and Amna, who's doing amazing work, then sign up on the call to action for students nationwide. There you'll find a form in which if you fill out, in response, you'll get an email with easy, clear instructions on how to contact your professor, and 2 links to present a 10-minute presentation and then spread the word across your college campus virtually. So with that, that's all the action items that we have, and we're looking to mobilize and get this out to the masses by October 4th, inshallah.
Yeah, thank you for providing those action items. And to all the young people who are watching, we need y'all to contribute. We need y'all to do this. He said that presentation is 10 minutes. That's not a long time. And imagine if, just thousands of us can gather together, or even in our own ways do that, how much change we can bring about. But Wasik, you told us about how there is some impact right at the level, the district attorney and things like that. But what about just young people in general, young activists, young organizers? What does the response from them look like?
It is energetic. It's ecstatic. Thousands. We have just on our team alone a total sum of 100 students all across the nation in different cities that we began with just about 30 or so, and now we've expanded to 100. And in that first week, we organized virtual letter campaigns, and the attendees, a majority of them were students, were young people. When they recognized our campaign as Students for Imam Jamil, that this is led by youth organizers, in ways we're following the exact work that Imam Jamil did himself when he was HRAP Brown in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And, he was 21 years old and met the president. It makes us think, what are we doing for the cause? What are we doing for the fight for social justice and social revolution? And so, many people, students all across the nation are so energized and touched by Imam Jamil's story. And I think it goes to show who Imam Jamil was and how he was so broad in his fight for human rights for all people, and that way he can touch every single person regardless of what color skin you are. We're not African American. We're not from that community. So why am I still fighting for him? But Imam Jamil exemplified this, through his understanding of Islam being a religion for all people and unifying people through that lens.
And you have done such a great job providing those action items, and I trust that those who are watching will follow through with that. But what is your message to young people who hope to educate themselves further, who hope to get involved, but do feel a bit hesitant? And you can probably relate to this. I encounter a lot of young people who want to get involved. They just don't know where to get started. They just don't have that confidence. So I want to hear your message to them.
For sure. It doesn't take, you don't necessarily need a title to be a quote unquote leader or an activist. Deep down, each and every single one of us have a responsibility, regardless of what faith you share, to care for the humanity of all people. And so if this case is someone who is wrongfully imprisoned. So if he was or was not Imam Jamil, we all have a responsibility to stand for injustice. So deep down at the core of our hearts, we have to recognize that, hey, if I was wrongfully imprisoned, just think empathetically. Imagine if you were framed for a murder and you were wrongfully imprisoned and you were put in solitary confinement for 11 years, for 23 hours in a day. How would you feel knowing that the person who committed the crime confessed to it publicly? And even if, when you do bring Imam Jamil's status to this, that someone who was out in the streets that the masses of people knew about, that you can learn about, and now he is, put behind bars, what are you going to do to it? And so we're in a time where history is always being written. So it's a matter of if we want to be part of that history or we want to remain neglectful of it. And the same question that you would ask me is, a sentiment that many youth share. But it's our job, whether we like it or not, to be active. And you don't need to be portray yourself as an activist or anything like that, but to have the genuine qualities of just being sincere, being selfless, being someone that is there for other people and can speak out whenever there is a wrong in society. And so all young people, there's very simple ways we can all get involved, and it starts with those small, low-hanging fruit. And when we're able to accomplish that, we recognize that there's so much more for the potential that we have in ourselves to be advocates of justice.
I think you put it very poetically, like a lot of what you said in your message to young people. I can definitely tell that you are a spoken word artist, and I encourage all of you to go check that out as well. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for being here on our show and for giving your message of solidarity for Imam Jamil Al Amin and for encouraging young people to get involved.
No, thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to share this platform and to be a voice for all young people and for the work that you do here on Muslim Network as well.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. And until next week, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.